Yo, what's up? Welcome back to Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching Spider-Man No Way Home. Spider-Man No Way Home is the third MCU Spider-Man film, which takes place immediately after the events of Spider-Man Far From Home. The world learns Spider-Man's identity, all hell breaks loose, Spider-Man seeks Doctor Strange help with that problem, and hell further breaks loose. Spoiler free. I always tread spoiler free here, but I've never before felt so obligated to do so. There is a reason I saw this as soon as I could on Thursday night, because I did not want some slap to ruin it for me, and I'm not gonna be that slap for you. Because I mean, this movie, this movie had some serious hype behind it. From the infamous trailer drop out of nowhere on some random night, actually, funny story, probably too much information. I was on the toilet when it happened, scrolling away as many do on the porcelain throne when I see that night audible, oh my god, so loudly that my girlfriend rushes to the door to ask if I'm okay, and I just go, yeah, they just posted the new Spider-Man trailer. To which I imagine, I cannot confirm because there was a door between us, but I imagine she rolled her eyes and questioned her taste in men. Then the days, weeks, months that followed of pure fan theories and speculation, hype all around the internet. I mean, people were going bananas all the way up until Thursday, the night before it was released. Now, I always try and see new releases on the Thursday before release days, just because it's really easy for me to just get ahead of it on the weekend, see the movie so I can film the review, edit the review, get this thing up as soon as I can, which is especially important during the holiday season. Normally it's strictly like 7 p.m., one single showing the night beforehand. I usually appreciate just that bone getting tossed to me, but not this movie. It was 4 p.m., 4:30 p.m., 5:30, 6, 6:30 at both theaters in town. I mean, it's insane. Like, I seriously cannot recall another superhero film that got released, just a single superhero film that was not an ensemble like the Avengers or the Justice League that had so much anticipation leading up to it. But it does make sense. I mean, it's Spider-Man. I mean, he's easily one of the top 3 most popular superheroes of all time. As a result of that iconic popularity, this character has just such an arsenal, a deep bag of tricks that a filmmaker could reach into and pull out if they're ever inclined or bold enough to do so. And here we are. Well, let's start the list of pros right there, the logical starting point, and that is the fan service. And again, spoiler free. It's no secret to anyone that this movie possesses a lot. Hell, even if you manage to avoid the trailer for this movie, 1, good on you, but 2, you still know that going in. Like, this movie just had an aura about it that you knew there was going to be a lot of stuff in there. And the successful balancing of all of this is very reliant on fan service, which can be a very damaging thing if not handled correctly. But I think that this was one of the rare cases where it was handled right. It was kind of like Endgame in a way. Like, Endgame had a lot of fan service in it, but it never really felt like a crutch. It kind of felt like a nice cherry on top, an accent piece. As I mentioned before, Spider-Man has such a deep bag of tricks, but it's so much deeper than just all of the different Spider-Man films. It's the Spider-Man pop culture relevance. I mean, he is an icon. Getting blasted in the face with references, callbacks, throwbacks, left and right can feel forced. It can feel contrived, out of place in certain situations, but in a movie like this, that pretty much has like a comic book energy to it from start to finish, circulating around a character with a childlike innocence like Spider-Man, this kind of a movie just, I don't know, it works. And that's coming from a nitpicky son of a bitch like me. I was able to turn my brain off, put my mind at ease, and just embrace what they were giving me, even if it was absolute insanity and doesn't make a lot of sense. I was able to just embrace it and just kind of take it for what it is, and I think that has a lot to do with Spider-Man and what that character is and represents. I do not think a film like this could work with other massively iconic comic book characters that we've gotten throughout the years. It just only works here. Batman, Superman, both of them are kind of at Spider-Man's level of iconic popularity in pop culture, and you could, in theory, make a similar film like this, kind of a nod to the character in general, but I don't think it would work with those characters because they're just too brooding and serious. And if you really take a step back and look at this movie and what it is trying to do, it is insane. The grand scope of everything, it needs to look good, and it does. You've got the far out universal galactic that all looked good. You've got your Doctor Strange with the Inception-y world-folding stuff. That gave all the whoa that I was hoping it would. The characters, the battles, the skirmishes, they all looked great. Granted, it was a little over-reliant on CGI, but if you take in what this movie is trying to accomplish, this movie could not be done any other way. Not only because the concepts and ideas are so far out there that you just cannot do them in camera practically, but because a lot of the familiar faces that you do see in this movie, again, spoiler free. A lot of these faces are just too old. You can't make them fight and stuff. They're too old. So with that, you're not gonna get the sleek new action sequences that we got in Shang-Chi. I mean, that stuff was just revolutionary. I don't think the MCU is going to touch that very often. I mean, they just don't have the horses in the stable. This goes back to the normal status quo of MCU action. A lot of chroma key, mid shots, close shots, instead of wide shots with great fight choreography. And I think that's okay. I mean, not every MCU film can be that new height of Shang-Chi. I mean, that's just the way it is. And considering what this film is trying to do and what it had to work with and the grand scope of everything, the visuals are good enough that it holds up. Of course, the film packs some MCU isms like the weird need to make everything so huge and grand. You have the big bang in there. But I felt like this movie did avoid needing to use that big bang as an exclamation point at the end. Like Civil War, for instance, you have the airport scene. That is the big bang, and it is awesome and epic, but it's not the exclamation point. The exclamation point is really the finale between Bucky, Steve, and Tony. Three dudes just beating the out of each other. It's nothing grand scale. It's pretty small and intimate, but it works because it's oozing with emotion, and it uses that in its arsenal. This film, too, has that in its back pocket. It has some heart. It has some real character moments, those gut-punching scenes. It has all of it and uses it. Other MCU films also have those real kind of complex ideas, but they just don't use them. They want the climax to be a big bang instead of leaning on the character moments. This movie has the big bangs, but it also has the heart and the character moments, and it uses both of them appropriately. It loads both those Infinity Stones into the gauntlet to punch us square in the chest. This is aided by some outstanding acting performances, not only from Tom Holland, who turns in his most well-rounded, mature performance as Peter Parker, but also all the other actors and actresses, those familiar faces that have returned. This is again one of those instances, seemingly a Marvel staple at this point, that I could go down the line, but because of the sheer quantity and, well, the quality of them, I don't want to dive any deeper because, again, this is spoiler free. All I will say is that everyone that shows their face in this film not only seemed like they had a great time doing so, but they all remind us the high quality caliber of acting they're all capable of doing. However, my list of cons kind of starts in a very similar realm, and that is the comedy and humor of this film. I mean, this is a pretty funny film, which in most cases is a very good thing. When jokes land, it's really fun and funny, and it's largely due to some very charismatic performances. However, I do feel as if, and it sounds like I'm not alone in this success is largely due to the fact that they cast a massive net of jokes. They throw the kitchen sink of comedy at you in this film from start to finish. They throw so many jokes that I legitimately started sorting them in my head. That joke could have went. Ooh, that was a good one. Ah, another good one, back to back. Ooh, that one not so much. Now, obviously I didn't have a notepad in front of me to do tallies, and I wasn't doing it legitimately, like actually keeping a numerical count, but if I was to put a tag on it, I'd say like maybe 70% successful jokes, 30% not, which is positive. I mean, 70%, that's a passing grade. It passes as a very funny film, but just the sheer need that I felt to compartmentalize the comedy of this film in my head, I mean, that's a problem. Comedy is all about timing. It's all about ebbs and flows, kind of like a horror film. You kind of build them up and strike. Build them up and strike. In a horror film, you can't just perpetually throw constant jump scares at them. They'll just remain tense, shields up. You'll never truly get to them. Similar with comedy, you can't just huck jokes left and right, just throwing shit at the side of the barn and seeing what sticks. You have to be a little more methodical. Timing, timing, timing. And on top of the fact of the sheer quantity of jokes in this film, it also has the usual Marvel qualm of using comedy as a crutch, a safe place. You can almost guarantee that in most cases, if you're watching an MCU film and things start to get heavy, you're starting to dive into some questionable material, you know that Disney's gonna freak out and go,
feelings inside. Oh no.
And then they proceed to slap a joke at the end of it, and it undercuts and undermines all the real, raw, emotional, impactful stuff that they could be exploring and marinating upon. I feel like that's Marvel and Disney's way to take all of this subject matter and water it down enough for kids and families to watch together. They're just like, hey, let's make it funny. Star-Lord is battling his father after finding out that he murdered his mother. Hey, let's make it funny. Yelena is telling us that she got her tubes forcefully tied when she was a little girl to become a Black Widow, but hey, let's make it funny. I feel like it's Marvel's tendency to do things like that, to just bail, that makes Tony Stark's sacrifice, or basically the entire show of WandaVision, so special, because they did not jump away and bail at the first sign of real emotion. They let us sit and face those sad thoughts and feelings. Now, as I said before, this film still, despite the fact of all that, despite the massive amount of comedy imbalances that it still possesses some heart. There are some real heartfelt moments. Sometimes it works, other times they shoot themselves in the foot. I know I sound like a bitter old man saying, oh, it's just too funny, but I'm just saying I've seen this trend in the MCU going for far too long. Too many moments that have real potential to them get ruined because of a laugh or a joke. As a big story guy, I don't want another laugh or a joke. I want those real moments to do everything they could be. As Mac from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia said, laughs are cheap. I'm going for gasps, and I hope the MCU does not muzzle too many more gasps with laughs. I've tried retaping that like 3 times and I can't get it right. Laughs, gasps, laughs, gasps. I think I have a speech impediment. Another con that I found were some character inconsistencies. This is one that I don't think I can dive too deep into at all because of spoilers. But in a movie like this, where you're taking so many different characters from so many different places, sometimes they just took some of those characters and added little changes to them. Sometimes little, sometimes big. Sometimes it was a personality change or a mindset change. Other times it's taking characters and giving them abilities out of nowhere. I get that you have a movie that is ridiculous, basically a comic book movie to the point that we're forgiving a lot, we're shutting up and letting you do what you want, but there is a line somewhere along the way that I feel like we crossed somewhere along the way. On sort of a similar note of the massive array of characters in this movie, I do feel like it suffers from a little bit of sensory overload. Throughout most of this film, there's a lot of shit happening all at once. Like the first half of the film, the pacing is just manic. It's just so go, 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 go. Everything is escalating, moving, evolving, changing, and you're never given a chance to really sit and process it. And while all this craziness is happening, you're seeing a lot of faces, people, characters that we have not seen in a long time show up, and you're never really given a moment to sit there, just marinate and go like, wow, there he is. All the while getting blasted in the nuts by jokes, some successful, some less so, and it's just a lot happening throughout a whole 2.5-hour runtime. It almost felt like being at an airport, oddly enough. When you're trying to make your flight, you're trying to do your thing, keep your crew together, you have all your luggage, you're getting through security. Everyone else is just going all over the place trying to do all their stuff, and everyone's just weaving in and out. You can't miss your flight, but you're really hungry, so you go look at the place closest to your terminal to eat. Wow, that's a really long line. Let's see how much time we have. You're in Group 4. Group 4 boards in 30 minutes, which leaves Group 5 after you, which gives you about, I don't know, an extra 15 minutes. Okay, I think we have enough time for McDonald's. Let's go to McDonald's. Wow, $20 is a lot to pay for a Big Mac. It's madness. Too much is happening all too quick, and that is how I felt while watching this movie, particularly in the first half of the film. I will say that it does kind of find its footing in the second half. It kind of stabilizes, but even at that point, it is missing something crucial, and that's an antagonistic focus. I mean, if you look at all the best Spider-Man films we've gotten so far, I mean, hell, you could look at just about any film for that matter, because they all kind of follow this formula, but let's just stick with Spider-Man for simplicity's sake. For the Tobey Maguire films, you have Goblin in the first one, Doc Ock in the second. Both of them worked great. Then the third Tobey film, you get Venom, Sandman, and a bit of New Goblin. Lacks focus, too much going on. The Garfield Amazing Spider-Man films, those films have a lot of bad stuff going on. In the first film, you have Lizard, and that movie is not very good, but I don't think the Lizard character is the worst of it, especially when you compare it to the second Amazing Spider-Man film, where you have Electro, the New Goblin, a little bit of Rhino. Again, lacks clarity and focus, and it just doesn't work. Tom Holland arrives, and we get the first two. You get Mysterio and Vulture. Both of them work great as solo villains. And then there's this film. I mean, do you kind of see a theme here? I mean, there's kind of something to having just one villainistic focus on a film, so you can kind of have that back and forth battles and the skirmishes and the kind of chess match that they're playing with each other. There's something to that. It's the tale as old as time. Look at any Bond film. Every single Bond film has one overarching villain to watch them kind of go back and forth with Bond throughout the whole course of each film. The Walking Dead in a world of zombie apocalypse. You don't have the Governor, Negan, and the Whisperers all attacking a group of survivors at once while they're simultaneously trying to deal with Shane. They always take it methodically, one at a time, because that's better storytelling. I mean, who gave a single damn about Thanos when he popped in a couple random post-credit scenes? No one, until they gave us 2 whole damn movies with him as the main villain. I mean, there's a reason why we herald him as the MCU's best villain, because we gave him center stage for 2 whole really long films. That stuff does matter. With this film, yes, one of the villains does kind of rise to the top, but it kind of is a default that happens toward the end of the film versus a perpetual back and forth that we get to experience and enjoy throughout the whole course of the film. It's just kind of like, I guess that's him then. Like I said before, I am a huge story guy, and having a face for the conflict of your film is important. And in this movie, Peter Parker has no real clear face on what the conflict is throughout most of the runtime. I had a theory that I was really hoping they would have done that would have solved this issue before I saw the movie. Ultimately, they didn't end up doing it, which that kind of sucks, but what can you do? All in all, though, this is a very, very good Spider-Man movie. If you are a fan of the web slinger, it is a must-see. However, there's an accumulation of really small things that kind of force it to hit its head on the ceiling of good instead of transcending into an amazing Spider-Man movie. Honestly, that was completely unintentional. I'm going to give Spider-Man No Way Home a B+. But that is just me. What do you guys think? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay up to date. New videos coming real soon. Stay safe. Thanks for checking in.